Welcome back to another episode of The Canon. What we do here is bring you the latest comic book and superhero movie news. I'm your host Terry, and it is my job to bring you the stuff that matters. So this will be a little bit different. I'm testing out this podcast type feel. This is something that I started out with before YouTube, so just want to bring it back. Maybe something you listen to while playing a game, or listening to it in the car or something like that on your commute. So, we're going to give it a test. It gives me some positive things, lets me talk a little longer, so that should be fun. But anyway, starting with the stuff that matters, we got Casey Affleck. Yes, brother to Ben Affleck. He basically said during a radio interview where he was, promoting his new movie, they asked him about Ben Affleck and Batman. And the direct quote is, I thought he was an okay Batman. No, I thought he was great. He was great. He's a hero, so he has something to channel and work with there. But he's not going to do that movie, I don't think. Sorry to say. Is that breaking news? Because I was just kind of making that up. I don't know. Alright, so, I'm definitely going to keep these comments. Now, I think the easiest thing to do is to look at the comments and say, oh, he said he was just kidding. Now, the interview from the radio show is on YouTube. I think it's titled Casey Affleck on Dale and Holly with Keith, something like that. So you could watch it. Now, if you watch it, the quote that the articles are running is actually broken up. So after he says he doesn't think that Ben Affleck will do the Solo movie, he did, the radio host then say, like, oh, wow, really? That's breaking news. And then he kind of follows up and says, is that breaking news? Oh, I was just kidding. So you can tell that he let it slip. It wasn't just, oh, I'm just sitting here joking. You know, Casey has dry humor, but he wasn't saying it in a joking way. Once he saw how people reacted, then he was like, oh, you know, I'm making that up. So you can kind of tell that he was being serious. Now, this dates back for a while. The whole Ben Affleck leaving his Batman thing. A lot of debate, a lot of back and forth about it. But, I can't say the writing is on the wall, but I can say it's reasonable to think that Ben Affleck is on his way out when you just look at the evidence produced. And mainly if you look at the Batman solo film and what happened with him as director and as a writer. And I get it. For a lot of people, he's a great Batman. They want him to stay. I like him as Batman. I can't really get over him as Bruce Wayne. And a lot of people that are DCU defenders, they're just tired of people making noise about the DCU when there is none. I love DCU. I guess I'm a defender. I'm whatever. I don't like the word apologist because I have nothing to apologize for. But at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and ignore the signs. So you look at Ben Affleck when he was the director, and there was rumors like, hey, Ben Affleck is not going to be directing this movie. It seems like he's going to be dropping out. And a lot of people, screw you, you're making up stuff. And he went on Jimmy Kimmel and he said, hey, we've got a good script. I'm happy to be directing, all that good stuff. Literally days later, the news came out that he's no longer the director. And then, like, you have no leg to stand on at that point. What are you defending? So a lot of people like, screw you, you're making rumors. And then that happens. And then he goes to Comic-Con, says he loves being Batman, all this good stuff. He loves Matt Reeves. And the fans are like, see, he said he's being Batman. He didn't necessarily guarantee anything. He said he loves Matt Reeves. He would play an ape for him. That he did not say I'm signed on to play Batman. He said I love being Batman. I'll be him as long as I can or whatever. He did not say I'm signed on to stay as Batman. He said nothing past Justice League. Everything he talked about was up until Justice League. So, understandably, the studio doesn't want any of this to come out right now because Justice League is getting ready to come out. You don't want negative publicity, especially when you got negative media reports about Joss Whedon having to redo Zack Snyder's film, which is a whole different story that I could talk about. There's a great article from Screen Rant. I'll put it in the description area where you can go and look at that. But they basically break down how all of it is BS. So anyway, you don't want negative press. You don't want all this talk about Ben Affleck leaving before people see Justice League. So it's understandable they're playing cool. But then Casey Affleck, his brother, who is very blunt, he pretty much told you what was going on. Now, he can't speak for Ben Affleck. Ben could change his mind. Things can change. But it's hard to sit here and say that Casey Affleck's comments aren't pretty telling. This isn't some random quote from an interview that, they're twisting his words. You can see the actual interview on video and see for yourself what he said. And I don't think he would say that for no reason. So, yeah, I mean, you can talk about it for a while. I'm not going to, but that's kind of where we at. People just got to brace themselves with a Flashpoint movie and all this other talk. It's possible we can see a different Batman that's not Ben Affleck, who just frankly probably is over the burden that comes with playing that character. Alright, so next up we got Samuel L. Jackson, aka Nick Fury. He has confirmed that he is not in Avengers 3 or 4. We know Avengers 3 is called Infinity Wars right now. We don't know the title of Avengers 4. But we do know they are kind of back-to-back direct sequels of each other. So, we got the confirmation he's not in either one of them. And then, I guess some people were talking about how he's not in Black Panther. So, I'm going to keep this, cause for me, the shooting, the principal photography for Infinity War is done. And Nick Fury was never on set. Samuel Jackson is not on the cast list. So I wasn't expecting him in Avengers 3. Not to say it's not weird that Nick Fury's not in there, but there was never any talk of Nick Fury being in it when they started shooting and all that. So that didn't really surprise me that much. And so him not being in Infinity 4 or Avengers 4, that's a little more surprising just because we all kind of figured like, okay, at some point the Avengers who are created and connected to Nick Fury, we would see him in it. And I think it'd be anything big. It's never been anything big in any of these movies, but I just thought we'd see him in it. So that's a little odd, but Black Panther, why would he be in Black Panther? Yes, it's a black cast. We get it. It's a black superhero, but it's in Africa. All the people involved are pretty much connected to Wakanda. Why would Nick Fury randomly pop up just because he's black? If they did that, I would actually have a serious problem with it. You remember that S.H.I.E.L.D. isn't S.H.I.E.L.D. S.H.I.E.L.D. has been taken down by Hydra, infiltrated. And so there's no real power with Nick Fury. He's more underground. And so why would he randomly show up in Africa? That would have kind of made me upset that they forced a black character in there just because he's black and it's supposedly a black movie. Like, just let it be a movie. Just tell the story you're telling. You don't need Nick Fury in there. You don't need to force him in there. So I'm keeping that he's not in these movies. I don't know that he had to be in any of these movies. Like I said, his role is pretty small usually. So, it's kind of inconsequential that he won't be in it. He might be a fan favorite for some, but it's just like, okay, fine. He's not in it. The next movie he's scheduled to be in is Captain Marvel with Brie Larson. So that kind of takes us to the next story where Miss Marvel, I'm not going to call her Captain, Miss Marvel, featuring Brie Larson, has got a new writer in Geneva Robertson Dorrit. She is taking over for Nicole Perlman and Meg LaFauve. So I am going to keep this. So Geneva Robertson Dorrit, she, from what I understand, her name got kind of hot from her spec scripts that she was selling to studios. And from there, she started getting some big projects. So she was hired to write the Tomb Raider movie reboot that's coming out, with Alicia Vikander. She also was hired to write Gotham City Sirens for Warner Brothers DC, which is directed by David Ayer. I don't know if that movie's coming out. But now she is doing, Ms. Marvel. So the original writers, Nicole Perlman, wrote Guardians of the Galaxy, and the other writer, she wrote Inside Out, both for Disney, of course. So I thought that was a good pairing, but apparently they dropped out and they brought in a new writer. So these things happen, and it's kind of, people give so much credit to writers, and to me it's becoming more apparent how much we don't know what's happening behind the scenes. Like, the best example I could give you is the original Wonder Woman script was thrown out midway through, production and redone. And nobody really talks about that. Like, we could have had a completely different movie. There's some people that don't like Wonder Woman, but a lot of people that do. You could have had a completely different movie. And the biggest thing about that new script, the co-writer was Zack Snyder. So all the hate for Zack Snyder, all the love for Patty Jenkins, and nobody really talks about how Zack Snyder co-wrote the movie that everybody is loving. Because the DCU is so tragic and it's so bad and it's Zack Snyder's fault, and Patty Jenkins brought it back. Zack Snyder wrote the script. Thank you. So anyway, so writers get moved all the time. And then, when I feel like when it's DC or anybody, it's a big deal. But then now we see, like we said, not only did people drop out to do other things, but they don't like the script the way it is. So they want to redo it. And nobody really talks about that. I mean, it's some time before Ms. Marvel comes out, but nobody really bats a second eye. The only reason this is a story is because people think Robertson Durrett does female-led movies, which I don't even understand what that means. Like, okay, it's a movie. The more you keep pointing out, hey, it's a female, not a male, the more you keep trying to say, hey, this is different. And I thought the point was to accept everybody the same, but that's just me. Because you get a lot of people saying she knows how to write female-led movies. Okay, well, there's a lot of females that write movies in general. And I don't know what a male-led movie means. Like, what's different about that? Like we said, the first writer, Nicole Perlman, did Guardians of the Galaxy, and most of them are male. So, like, what does it mean to be a male-led movie? I don't know. That's just kind of my frustration. But I'm excited, I guess. The thing about Durrett is that she hasn't done any big movies yet. Like, we know she sold some scripts, but we don't really know. The two big profile movies she's on, we haven't seen them yet. So for me, I'm keeping it, but it's just like, okay, we'll kind of wait and see. We do know a lot of things about it being in the 90s, having Skrulls, having Nick Fury back in the 90s, but we don't know much else about it. So, it's decent. We'll kind of see what she does. Alright, last bit of news is Silver and Black for Spider-Man spinoff for Fox. It just got its release date moved. The original date was October 2018. They pushed it back to February 2019. So I am going to keep this. The reason this isn't a huge deal because, dates move all the time. It isn't a huge deal because Venom with Tom Hardy was scheduled to come out October 5th, 2018, or still is. So for me, it made sense that if you got two movies in the same month or the same year, why would you want to do that? You fighting yourself. So for me, it made sense that they were going to move it at some point in time. Now, going to February, I think Deadpool really set the way for that, where February and January are like kind of, dead months where that's not where real blockbusters or good movies come out. And I think Deadpool really set the tone where, hey, if it's a good movie, it's going to make money. Not only that, it's no competition, so it's going to make a lot of money. And then we saw the Lego Batman follow up this year in February. Didn't do as great as people wanted, but I think it still did well enough than any other movie. So this is fine for me. I mean, I don't know much about the movie because it's coming out for a while. If you left it in October, then you're talking about almost a year out. You know, it's not that far from October. So this gives you some more time to find the crew that you want. And then, of course, you got to do the casting. So I will say this might be, you know, not popular to say, but February, I think they do target for those black movies, those black centered cast or whatever. So I'm almost wondering if Black Cat or maybe even Silver Sable or maybe both, I wonder if they're going to change the race of them and make them African American or African. And that's why they're shooting for a February date. We know Black Panther for the MCU, they're doing February. It just makes sense. It's Black History Month and you want to show off a black cast. So if you are doing, you know, a race change and you got two African American or African women in the lead of this movie, then yeah, you put it in Black History Month. That makes the most sense. So I wonder if that's more of a tip towards the casting rather than just a regular date change. Alright, so that's all the news for me. What I would like for you guys to do, though, is go to the comment section. Tell me what you think about it. Do you think Casey Affleck's comments confirm that Ben Affleck will not be Batman? What do you think about Samuel not being in the Avengers? And what do you think about Silver and Black's movie? Go thumbs up, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Keep trying to grow this channel for people that just like this content. So I appreciate everybody that listens and just hope you share it with other people. So, and remember, if you heard it here, it's official canon.